The November update of 2023 has a Ministry of Balance reports, and it is a flurry of changes. So this update will bring a ton of balance changes to some favorites at high tiers and in the feedback channels alike. For instance, Monarch gets her hull B, Stalingrad's rear turret firing angles are improved, and many historical camos are now craftable. And we will go tier by tier, and this update they're focusing on the top tiers with nerfs and buffs to several ships. So first up is the legendary tier, and here is the Schlieffen, one of my favorites. I have the legendary modification on the secondaries for the Schlieffen because it really gives some great secondary performance. So let's see what happened here. And German science is the world's finest. Schlieffen has an extremely high burst damage and early game impact on the battle. So they're decreasing the damage output of the ship a little bit so that there is more time to react against them in battle. And here are the nerfs. The main battery reload time has been nerfed from 30 seconds going up to 32 seconds. 150 millimeter secondary batteries. The reload time used to be 8 seconds, now it's 10.2. 105 secondaries used to be 3.5, now it's 4.4 seconds. So the main battery reload and the secondary reloads all took a nerf there. It looks like, I don't know, in some cases 20% or higher. Next up is the Stalingrad, the once and future king. Stalingrad has fallen from grace over the past couple years, so they're applying some of their most popular improvements from the feedback to boost the ship back to her former glory. First and foremost, the rear turret firing angles for Stalingrad have been improved to allow for firing from extreme angles at long distance targets. Main battery armor piercing shell damage is increased 10% from 8,000 to 8,800, and there's an addition, main battery HE shells now. So I believe the Stalingrad was kind of famous for having only armor piercing. Now it's going to have HE. That's kind of surprising actually, but okay, the damage is 4,500 on the HE shells. Fire chance is 33%, which is pretty good actually. Penetration is 51 millimeters. I think that's pretty good as well. And HP distribution has been changed. A little bit on the bow, the casement, superstructure, stern. Alaska is next, and Alaska has been greatly overshadowed by other cruisers in legendary tier, so they're enhancing her capabilities across the board. Main battery firing range has been increased from 16 to 16.15. I'm not sure that's much of an increase. Main battery reload time is decreased from 20 down to 18. Fire duration is increased from 30 to 45 seconds. That's going to be a longer fire duration. And the hull HP and HP distribution was improved. And the ship's HP is increased up to 60,800. And yeah, the bow HP, the casement, superstructure, stern has all been restructured as far as the HP distribution. Sonar consumable is improved. Duration is increased up to 100 seconds, so it got a 4% improvement. And the ship sonar detection goes up from 4.4 to 4.9. Torpedo detection has been increased up to 3.4 kilometers. Next up is the Shimakaze, easily the most popular destroyer at legendary tier, and also boasts high impact on battles. Not surprising, I guess. So we're making her easier to find and counter by reducing her concealment ability. So the ship's going to be easier to find and counter. Sea detectability range goes up to 6.9 kilometers. It was 6.7. Range by air is 3.5 kilometers. And firing into smoke gets a 1/10 of a kilometer increase while you're firing into smoke. So what that's going to mean is if you have a concealment build on a Shimakaze, you're probably going to be around 5.1 kilometers now instead of 5. So that's probably going to be the impact on that. Tier 8 Heisen, brand new ship with the new update. It's getting a buff already. So during testing of Heisen, they found that she needed some additional help to stand out at Tier 8. So they're increasing her offensive capabilities. Main battery reload time is decreased down to 33.5 seconds. Range goes up to 17.38. Shell grouping has been increased by 2.5%. Ship speed goes up to 29 knots. Detection range by sea is 15.5 kilometers. So the detection of the ship has been decreased by about 0.3 of a kilometer, it looks like. Next is Prinz Rupprecht. Like the Schlieffen, Prinz Rupprecht has exceptional burst damage potential and battle impact. So basically, the secondary got nerfed onto Prinz Rupprecht. And I didn't get to Prinz Rupprecht because I have a lot of secondary ships, but I think the big deal with the Prinz Rupprecht was it had awesome secondaries, and now not so much. St. Louis is next, and fairly unpopular. She did not feel like an upgrade over the Charles Martel, so they're increasing her damage output in order to give them greater presence in battle. So the main battery reload time has been improved, whether it's stock or an upgraded version. Next is a Neptune, and it sits at an odd spot between Edinburgh and Minotaur, so we increased her abilities and concealment to fit between the two other ships. Main battery reload time is improved, and the detection range of the ship has also been improved. Alan M. Sumner, the Tier 8 American destroyer, is getting a big time nerf here. Upgraded main battery reload time has been knocked down, as well as the torpedo range, and the detectability of the ship has been nerfed as well. Kitakazi, let me see, it got a buff to its main battery reload time and HE shell penetration. Monarch is getting a hull B applied, which I mentioned earlier. It comes with a series of improvements to her HP, anti-aircraft, rudder shift time, and even fire resistance abilities. The ship's HP has been buffed, as is rudder shift time, fire resistance multiplier, which is something you probably can't see in the stats or specs. Anti-aircraft fire has been improved and minor visual changes. And then Kansas is a top battleship at Tier 7 with exceptional firepower. So without reading the rest of that stuff there, they nerfed the main battery armor-piercing shell damage and the reload time. So much for the Kansas. It's not as exceptional as it used to be. Charles Martel, like the St. Louis, are improving the damage output of the Charles Martel, and they're buffing the main battery reload time. San Diego arrived with too many compromises to his ship's abilities to gain both semi-armor-piercing shells and main battery reload booster. This update will improve the ship in several areas to address those shortcomings. Ship has increased HP, which is good. And then they've redistributed the HP around the hull a little bit. And let me see, semi-armor piercing shell damage has been increased from 1800 to 2300. That is good. Reload time has been nerfed, and the main battery reload booster duration has been increased by 1 second. So have to wait and see how that changes the ship. The higher HP will probably help, and the damage will probably help as well. Next is the Mogami, and there the Mogami got a buff to its main battery HE shell damage and reload time. And then the Riga has always been an oddball and now seems like a low point in the line compared to the Talon and Petro. And so they're improving the main battery shell grouping, dispersion, and the reload time of the main battery. And now we are getting a secondary battery reload modification for cruisers, and high tier cruisers with the ability to mount a 4th slot modification now has access to the secondary battery reload modification if they have secondary battery guns, and some cruisers do, and I was already locking my secondaries on destroyers and other ships if I have a cruiser with secondaries. So if you haven't been doing that, you might want to think about doing it. And here is a list of historical camos that are now available for all ships available for paint, and here is the full list. It's quite a few ships. I'm not going to name them all, but I will have these listings down in the details of this video. So that is it for the Ministry of Balance reports with the November update, all in black, and it is a fury of changes. Let me know what you think down below. This is the Jaguar, and I'll see you on the high seas. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you like it.